Thanks so much, everybody. Welcome to Build. I'm your host, Ricky Camilleri. LGBTQ rights in Kenya are virtually non-existent, and religious and political leaders across that country continuously sow seeds of hatred using anti-LGBTQ rhetoric. Similar in many ways to this country at times. The new film, Rafiki, by filmmaker Wanuri Kahiu, tells the story of two young Kenyan women that fall in love only to be divided by their community. It's a heartbreaking and tender film. Let's take a look. Let's welcome the writer-director of Rafiki, Wanuri Kahiu. Thank you. Thanks so much for being here.
Such a pleasure.
Congratulations on this beautiful film.
Thank you.
How did this is what number film is this for you? This is
my second feature film.
This is your second feature.
Yeah.
Okay. And what made you want to tackle this story? Where did this story come from?
Well, more than anything, I just wanted to tell a love story. I was really kind of frustrated by the fact that everybody else got love stories from around the world. So Europeans got love stories, Americans got lots and lots and lots and lots of love stories, but Africans didn't have that many love stories. So I wanted to just be able to add a love story to cinema, to cinematic history. So I started to look for many different stories that we could adapt, and found Jambula Tree, which was the most special, most moving, most vulnerable story I had ever read. And I just wanted to adapt it to screen, so we started the process.
Jambula Tree, which is a novel?
It's a short story by Monica Rakdenyeko, yeah.
And how did you find that?
It was the Kane Prize winner, which is a short story winner out of Africa, in 2007, and it was just really just glorious. It was truly glorious.
Wow. And I mean, were there any hesitations on your part in terms of adapting that? What were you most worried about adapting a story like that?
They were, I think that we worked through them. Obviously, same-sex relationships are illegal in Kenya. And you can get up to 14 years in prison. So I think my larger concern was how people would react, and the Kenyan government, and that came to play out because then they banned the film. So I think my fears were realized.
Did they ban the film after it was made? Were they aware that it was being made? Could you tell that community members were aware? And was there any fear or was there any fear on the part of the set? Were you worried how people were going to respond to seeing the set or the crew around shooting?
Well, what happens is you have to apply for a film license before you are allowed to make a film in Kenya. So we applied for a license, we got the license. That was great. And then it was...
Wait, no, they knowing full well what the story was when you applied for the license?
In theory.
Yeah.
In theory. I also believe that bureaucracy had a little to play in it. But in theory, yes, we applied for the film license. Everything we did above board, didn't break the law once to make the film. So we knew that we had met every criteria that we needed to meet to make the film. And it was only when the film was released that we started having concerns, or because we had to apply for a film for classification. And it's only when we applied for classification that we started to come into a couple of problems.
And what kind of problems? Obviously you got banned, but what were the problems that initially came up? And I want to get into talking about the filmmaking itself in just a minute. Yeah.
Please. Well, the first thing that they said was the classification board said that if I changed the ending of the film, because I felt the ending was too hopeful, and if I could make the ending of the film more remorseful, then they would give me a rating and they wouldn't ban the film. So when I refused to change the ending of the film, that's when they banned it.
That's so fascinating because I would never say that the end of the film is remorseful, thankfully.
That's what they wanted.
But I also would not say that it's hopeful in a lot of ways. Fair enough. I mean, it's in a certain way, it's two young lovers who are deeply in love who cannot be together.
Yeah.
And that is a story. I mean, you could find hope in the sense that, yes, they will continue growing.
Spoiler alerts, yeah. Mm-hmm.
Sorry.
Yeah.
But people will come back and watch this after premieres. It's okay. But hopeful, I find that fascinating. What kind of hopeful message that did they want? Hopeful in the sense of...
No, they wanted a remorseful message.
Less hopeful, more remorse.
Yes, they said if I could find a way that the film ends in a remorseful way, then they would not ban the film.
A kind of I'm sorry for being gay. What?
Absolutely.
That's
Absolutely.
horrible.
That's horrible.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was there any part of you that were you just immediate, like absolutely no way? Or did you have to kind of fight with yourself in any way because it could get released, more people could see it, and while maybe there would be this remorseful ending, there would still be representation of some kind on screen?
No, because even before I made the film, the one thing that I wanted to do, given that so much queer cinema that I've watched has had remorseful endings, it was the one thing that I didn't want for my film. I was very, very clear on that, I truly believe that the right to love is the most basic human right. And at any point that we can support that and support a vision of the right to love, then we're on the side of good. So there was never a doubt in my mind that I would change the ending.
Now, I love your cast, these two women that you've
Glorious.
cast. They're so fantastic. How did you find them?
Well, Sheila, who plays Ziki with the pink hair, came in for an audition, and then she was just so bubbly and just so great that we kind of auditioned her when we got her on the spot, so that we kind of cast her on the spot. And then
Did you shoot the auditions? Because I have to say, like, there are certain people who get in front of a camera and, like, their features and everything, you
Yeah.
just feel the camera
Yeah.
eating it up, and I totally felt that way.
Yeah, we
with
shot
her. She's so striking.
Yeah, she's incredibly striking, and also her energy is truly beautiful, you know? So she just seemed right. She was right on camera. She's just right in person. She ticked every single box. And then Sam, who I met her at a party, and when I saw her, I hadn't realized that Kenna, the character, would look like that until I saw her. And then I saw her, and she was just like, I was like, she's the one.
Why is that? What was it about
She-
the way she looked that made you, that articulated the character?
It wasn't only the way she looked. I think it's the way that she held herself more than anything else, because she seemed like just kind of an introvert, and an introvert tomboy-like character was really interesting to me. And the idea that she was, I don't know, there's something quite vulnerable and sweet and wonderful about her. So she just seemed the energy as well of Kenna, who Kenna should be. But she had never acted a day in her life. So this is her first acting role, and she was marvelous. She was absolutely gorgeous.
What kind of work did you do with her beforehand? Because she delivers a wonderful performance.
So we did lots of rehearsals, and we did lots of well, we worked on the energy between the two girls for a long time, just to make sure that the chemistry was right. So we had quite a lot of rehearsal time. We also had an amazing acting coach who came in and really helped us get the girls where they needed to be as well. And just all of us just really tried to kind of pull together and make sure that the set itself was a safe space for them to be everything that they needed to be, and that truly helped.
And I would imagine that they're Kenyan as well. Is there any fear on their part about the response to the film afterwards and the banning of it? Was there any worry about their lives?
I think not worry about their lives, but I think we all got a very, very heavy case of social anxiety after the film was released and the ban, because it just became such a hot topic for a while. So we just had to protect our space in very curious ways, and just protect our emotional space, and be clear that whenever we left the house, we left with somebody that we loved, or somebody who we knew could be there for us and help navigate just public life. So yeah, that's how we kind of did it.
Did you find a lot of, and did they, your actresses, and I don't know if maybe you don't want to speak for them, find a certain amount of divisive rhetoric or hateful rhetoric that was thrown at you in public?
Yeah, we did, and it wasn't even. It's not necessarily in public, because
Twitter.
yeah, I actually on Twitter I just put up all my privacy settings so I couldn't even see.
Good.
But because there was some, and also because the head of the classification board was very, very clear on his position about the film, and then went on to say some really vile, hateful things about the film. He threatened to arrest me, about my character. He really kind of he went out of his way, you know? And he is a man who holds a position in government. So it was quite curious because, you know, when a man in government goes out and to try and get you, it draws a particular kind of attention.
Is there any fear on your part still living in Kenya that something could come of this?
No, because I love where I live and I think that I'm safe and we're taking precautions. And also we're in court because we decided to take the Kenya Film Classification Board to court for freedom of expression. And once you're in court, that provides you a certain level of safety as well.
Yeah.
Because, you are in court. And the great thing is that we have a constitution that allows us freedom of expression. It's just a very young constitution. And because it's so young, there are no laws to enforce freedom of expression. So we're hoping Rafiki begins to do that. It begins to create conversations about the laws. So it is a test case.
So not only will Rafiki be a film of a different type of representation than people normally see in Kenyan cinema, it could also change the laws in regards to freedom of speech in the country as well.
That's what we're hoping for, yeah.
That's effing incredible. That's wild. I mean, did you think when you started making the film, when you read this short story and you thought, I want to tell a love story, that your film would take you to this point?
Not at all. I think as a filmmaker, you're just trying to, all you're doing is trying to create. And every point, you're just trying to create. And then even when obstacles come in your way, you're really just trying to create. So the obstacles in this case were a ban. So we tried to push that. We managed to get the ban lifted for 7 days in Kenya. The film was sold out over the 7 days. But at every point, you're just trying to figure out how to create and how to get your work to audiences. That's it. I didn't even consider myself an activist at all.
And now?
And now I'm in an activist space. So I'm a reluctant activist. I'm more filmmaker than activist.
Do you find yourself embracing the activism as a form, as more of a part of your filmmaking and your duty as a filmmaker?
Absolutely. It's more as a response. And the way I think about it is, if I was an accountant and somebody sat on my desk and refused me to kind of write in my ledger, I'm not sure what
that's my ledger.
That's
Let
my
me get
ledger.
at it. Yeah.
Yeah, you kind of throw them off the desk. That's what that's what your hope is. So all I'm trying to do is just clear my table just so I can continue to create and allow others to create, because there's so many strong storytellers coming out of Kenya.
When you say there are so many strong storytellers coming out of Kenya, is there a sort of a new wave of Kenyan filmmakers that are being born?
Oh my gosh, there's a new wave of Kenyan artists. There's filmmakers, there's musicians, there's fine artists, there's graphic artists. I think Kenya's coming through this really beautiful new wave of just art. And it's such a glorious time.
How long has that been happening, or how long have you been noticing that?
We've been noticing it for maybe the last, just less than 10 years. Over the last 6-7 years, for sure, there's been such a boom in Kenya creativity.
Is there anything that you attribute that to?
Well, I think it's just getting over the hangover of being under a dictator. It kind of...
A bit more freedom of expression,
yes.
and more is coming into the
Yes.
culture to inspire.
Yeah. And then also just the internet. I mean, we can't deny the power of the internet, our ability to share ideas and find internet tribes and find Twitter tribes and tweets, you know what I mean? All these things help you develop your voice and give you courage in ways that you would never, ever foresee. So all these things are kind of contributing to this growth.
You mentioned that in queer cinema, oftentimes endings are remorseful, and we've seen that in, tragic endings when it comes to queer love stories, or just queer stories in general, or other kinds of remorseful stories where people have to pay a price.
Or go straight.
Yeah. What were some of your influences? Was there anybody that you watched or actually thought about, had in your back pocket while you were making this film?
Well, there's a couple. There was definitely artists, like fine artists that I was referencing, like Micheline Thomas, who's an amazing African-American artist here, whose work I just love her work and her courage and her ability to kind of put the female form as front and center with absolutely no apology and with just such love and reverence. So there was that. There was Wangeshi Mutu, who's a Kenyan artist who does really, apart from her own work that she does, she has this amazing organization, or she's part of an amazing organization that kind of contributes to the LGBT scene in Kenya, or in Africa, rather. And then the filmmaker I was referencing, or who I thought of the most, was a French filmmaker by the name of Melanie Laurent, and she's an actress as well as a filmmaker. But her work as a director has always been just so beautiful. And she made a film about two young women in love as well. But she also made a film called Les Adoptés, which was like really kind of visceral in her approach to love. And you've got a sense that you were there in the room with these people. And I wanted to be able to kind of create that sort of feeling.
Yeah, I love that. It's not so much the idea of the exact story that
Yeah.
person tells, it's that visceral feeling that you get while watching that movie. How do I recreate
Absolutely.
that feeling for other people
Yeah.
that I had?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not necessarily taking a scene or a shot. It's just that thing that hits you.
Yeah.
I think we have a question in our audience about the film right here. Hey.
Hi.
Hi.
I'm so curious about how you got started in film. Like, is there a moment in your childhood where you felt the bug bite you?
So it's kind of curious. I wasn't a filmmaker who watched a film and thought, oh my gosh, I want to make a film like that. It was just the realization that films are made. And it had never occurred to me until I walked into a TV studio and saw somebody create content when I was about 16. And then everything just made sense to me. And I knew from that moment, all I wanted to do was create, period. And I've never turned back since.
When you say create, do you mean create TV, movies, or create just art in general?
No, create TV and film.
Right.
Yeah, that's my passion.
What was it about that TV studio? What was it about that moment?
It was just, it was really old, so there was still kind of editing. They were still using tape. You know what I mean? They weren't editing on a flatbed, but it was just like the next step up from it. And it was just that moment of oh my gosh, people create. I had never realized. And then all those days of me being called a bookworm and all those days of me being called a telly addict finally made sense. And I thought, this is what I want to do. And it was very, very clear to me that's all I wanted to do.
Right. You got to peek under the hood and you realize that, oh, there's a whole process that goes into making these things that I love.
Absolutely.
And you got addicted. Would you find that you're addicted to the process now more so than even watching the movies anymore that you watched when you were a kid?
Yes. And both. I still continue to watch as many movies as I can, but the process of it, just the idea of writing and directing gives me such joy. More than anything else, it gives me such joy.
What's your favorite part of the process these days?
Truly directing. Being on set.
Wow.
Being on set is my favorite. But the lead up is so special as well because I love getting into the research of places and creating things. So just directing in general.
Do you run a fairly loose set where there's a little bit of improvisation and people are kind of figuring it out? I mean, one of the things that is so essential to this film is the relationship between these two and their chemistry. And a lot of that seems to be just the two actresses kind of figuring out each other's space and how to talk to each other. And that seems like it could come from a little bit of improvisation.
It does. I think it's controlled improvisation.
Fair.
So we allow the actresses or the actors to use the language that they feel is most comfortable to them. And when we rehearse, we use the space that is most comfortable to them, and then we tweak it for camera. But it really is important to be able to be clear what notes or what beats you need to hit to move forward, just so you can move the story forward. But other than that, we like people to play with language, and we like people to be comfortable in their own character and use it to the best of their advantage,
Oh, well, Wanuri, congratulations on
Thank
Rafiki.
you.
It's such a beautiful film.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for being here and sharing it with us. It's coming to the Quad Cinema this Friday,
Yeah,
right? And then I
and,
believe it'll be at the Brooklyn Academy of Music
It is.
as well. Congratulations. Good luck with everything going on in court.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
Everybody, please give Wanuri a big round of applause. Let's hear it.